This is Ms. Humbert here, and today we're going to be doing Unit 1 Learning Target 11. So we're going to work on our notes for writing inequalities. So on the previous note sheet you worked on setting them up for equations, and now we're going to be doing it with inequalities. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at what that's going to look like. I want you guys to make sure you're using the note sheet with your practice sheet because a lot of the word problems are really similar. Okay, so Hannah budgets $30 a month for lunch. Most days she brings her lunch. She can also buy her lunch at the cafeteria or at a fast food restaurant. On average, she spends an average of $3 for lunch at the cafeteria. So X is going to be the number of days that she goes to the cafeteria. Okay, Y is going to be the number of days that she goes for lunch at a restaurant. Okay, so maybe make a note to yourself. You can even just say X is equal to cafeteria, Y is equal to lunch or restaurant, something to that effect. So how many times a month can Hannah buy her lunch and remain within her budget? So for every X day that I go to the cafeteria, it's going to cost me $3. For every Y day that I go to the restaurant, it's going to cost me $6. Now you'll notice for lunch, her budget is $30. So whatever we spend, we want it to be less than or equal to $30. We can spend exactly $30, but we definitely don't want to spend more than $30. So what we're going to do is solve this for X. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract 6Y from both sides. So I get 3X is less than or equal to negative 6Y plus 30. Divide both sides by 3, and then I get, why did I bring Y over to the other side? That was silly. You should be solving for Y. Oh, Miss Humbert's having a day today. So we're going to subtract 3x from both sides. So I get 6y is less than or equal to negative 3x plus 30. Divide both sides by 6, and we get that y is less than or equal to, when you take and you divide negative 3 divided by 6, both 3 and 6 are divisible by 3, so you end up getting negative 1/2 x. And 30 divided by 6 is 5. So this right here is the equation that we are going to graph. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at that graph, which is right here. So we are crossing the y-axis at 5, which is right here. Okay, then our slope is negative 1/2, which means that we are going down 1, right 2. Down 1, right 2. And we're going to go ahead and graph that line. So I'm going to go ahead and graph that. And I used a solid line because notice there's a line underneath there. So I need to use a solid line. So the alligator is facing away from the Y, so I need to shade down from the line, which is going to be in this region right here. Next, let's take a look at number 2. So Rose Padilla sets her radio advertising for 30 seconds and 60-second time slots. During every hour, we're up to 15 minutes available for commercials. How many commercial slots could she sell for an hour of broadcasting? So here's a couple things. Remember that 1 hour is equal to 60 minutes. Okay? 30 seconds is equal to a half a minute. So what I'm trying to do is put all of these in one type of time measurement. And 60 seconds is exactly 1 minute. So X is going to represent the 30 second, Y is going to represent the 60 second. So for every X 30-second commercial I have, it's going to be a half of a minute. For every Y 60-second, it's going to be 1 minute. And I have a total of 60 minutes that I can give, or 15 minutes, sorry. She has 15 minutes available for every hour. So we're going to do 15 minutes for those commercials. So we don't want to go more than 15 minutes. We could do exactly 15 minutes, but if we go more than 15 minutes, we're going to have some cranky radio customers. So now I'm going to solve this for Y. So to solve it for Y, I'm going to go ahead and subtract 1/2 x from both sides. So then I get Y is less than or equal to negative 1/2 x plus 15. So now I'm ready to graph this. So we're crossing the y-axis at 15, which is right here. And then from there, our slope is negative 1/2. So that means we're going down 1 and right 2. Down 1 and right 2. So I notice that there's a line underneath my inequality symbol. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to connect that using a solid line like so. Then, at the very end, I notice that my alligator is facing away from the Y, which means I need to shade down. So in here, each of these dots in here represents a different way we could combine 30 and 60-second commercials to fill out that 15 minutes or to fill out less than that 15 minutes, okay? Let's take a look at number 3. Lee Cooper writes and edits short articles for a local newspaper. It takes her about half an hour to write an article and an hour to edit. So an hour to write, a half an hour to edit. So I'm going to let X equal writing. And I'm going to let Y equals time spent editing. If Lee works up to 8 hours, so up to 8 hours implies that she cannot work more than 8 hours. So whatever she works, it needs to be less than or equal to that 8 hours. Well, for every X amount of time, X amount of articles she writes, it's going to take her 1 hour. For every Y amount of articles that she edits, it's going to take her half an hour. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write that as 1/2 Y. Okay? And now we need to solve this for Y. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract X from both sides. So I get that 1/2 Y is less than or equal to -X plus 8. So now this 1/2 is really the same as Y divided by 2. So the opposite of that is going to be multiplying. So we're going to go ahead and multiply both sides by 2. So then I have just Y left over here, and I'm going to take and distribute in that 2. -2 times, or X, -X times 2 is -2X, and 8 times 2 is 16. So this right here is the equation I'm going to graph. So I'm crossing the y-axis at 16, which is right here. Then my slope is -2. Now remember that -2 is the same as -2 over 1. So then I'm going down 2, right 1. Down 2, right 1. And I notice that there's a solid line underneath my inequality symbol. So I'm going to connect this with a solid line. And then I'm going to go ahead and shade underneath there. And each of those represents a solution of articles that she could write and edit. So let's take a look at number 4. So Coach Washington wants to take her softball team out for pizza and pop. So each large pizza, I'm going to let X represent the pizza. So for every X pizza that I buy, it's going to cost me $12. For every Y pitcher of pop, it's going to cost me $3. So I'm going to let Y equal pop. She doesn't want to spend more than $60. So whatever she spends, we want it to be less than or equal to that $60. So X represents pizza. And so for every X pizza I buy, it's going to cost me $12. For every Y pop that I buy, it's going to cost me $3. Okay? So now let's go ahead and let's solve this for Y. So I'm going to start by subtracting 12X from both sides. So then I get 3Y is less than or equal to a -12X plus 60. So then from here, divide both sides by 3, and I get that Y is less than or equal to -12 divided by 3, which is -4X, and 60 divided by 3, which is 20. So now we're ready to graph this. So I'm crossing the y-axis at 20, which is right here. And I'm going down 4. Notice if I were to go all the way down here, how it jumps to 15. So to go down 4, I have to stop just short of that so I don't cross that 15. And then -4 as a slope is the same as -4 over 1. But to go over 1, notice we have to go all the way over here because our 1 is way down over there. So now I'm going to go ahead and connect those two lines like so. And again, it's solid because I have a solid line underneath my inequality symbol. And not only that, but it's facing away from the Y, so I need to shade down beneath. So now let's just take a look at some general graphing review, just to make sure we're comfortable with that. So first thing that we want it to be is in slope-intercept form, which it already is. So now I'm ready to graph. So I'm crossing the y-axis at 1. So I'm going to go ahead and plot 1. My slope is 2/3. 2/3 means I'm going up 2 and over 3. So I'm going up 1, 2, and over 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to plot that point. Since there's a solid line underneath the inequality, I'm going to draw a solid line. Then I notice that the alligator is facing away from the Y, which means I'm going to shade below the line. And I'm going to shade the entire grid below the line. Now, for number 6, in order for us to solve number 6, we have to solve it for y. So let's go ahead and let's do that. So first thing I want to do is get that 3x over to the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract 3x from both sides. So I'm going to continue down here. So I have a negative 5y is greater than negative 3x plus 15. So now I need to divide both sides by a negative 5 in order to solve for y. Now when I'm dividing both sides by a negative, I should have alarm bells going off in my head saying, hey, you're dividing by a negative, which means I need to flip my symbol around. So I have my y here. When you take and you have negative 3x divided by negative 5, that's going to become positive. So then I have 3/5 x. And then 15 divided by negative 5 is negative 3. So now I'm ready to graph this, okay? We're crossing the y-axis at negative 3, which is right there. Okay, then my slope is 3/5, which means I'm going up 1, 2, 3, and over 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, there's no solid line underneath my inequality symbol, which means that my line connecting those 2 points needs to be dashed. If I look at my end result, the alligator is facing away from the y, which implies that I need to shade down. Okay? So let's take a look at number 7. Again, for number 7, we have to solve that for y. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract 12x from both sides. And then what I'm going to end up getting is 3y is greater than or equal to negative 12x plus 12. So to solve for y, I'm going to divide both sides by 3. So my symbol stays the same way because we're not dividing by a negative number. Okay, negative 12 divided by 3 is going to be a negative 4, and then x. And 12 divided by 3 is going to give me 4. So I have y is greater than or equal to negative 4x plus 4. So I'm crossing the y-axis at 4. That's my y-intercept. Then my slope is negative 4, which is the same as negative 4 over 1. So I'm going down 4 over 1. I have a solid line underneath my inequality symbol, so I'm going to draw in a solid line. Now at the end result, the alligator was eating the y, so I need to shade up from the line, like so. Taking a look at number 8, so we're crossing the y-axis at negative 5, which is right here. And my slope is 2. So when I have a slope of 2, that's the same as 2 over 1. So I'm going up 1, 2, and over 1. Since I don't have a solid line underneath my inequality symbol, I'm going to have it be dashed. And then y is, the alligator is facing away from the y, so I need to shade down. Okay, so that concludes your note video for today. Go ahead and show me your completed note sheet when you are done. Thanks for listening.